Hey, everybody. I am Blake Cabot. I am the owner of facepaint.com, and I am here with the all too masterful Dutch Bihary, who is exhausted but willing, God bless him, to do this. And that was Dutch, in case you missed him. And we are going to be doing a back design. It's going to be a skull back design. So this is going to be more body art than we're used to seeing, but Dutch is an amazing artist. We're lucky to have him. Just to throw it in there, next week on Thursday, we are going to have a master class with Kelly Burris doing basic designs. It costs $10. It's going to be 2 hours just on Zoom. So if you guys are interested in that, I will put a link in the chat. Okay, let's get going. Dutch, take it away.
We're doing a skull? I thought we were doing a dragon.
A dragon, except for I wrote down skull.
Oh, okay.
We're doing a dragon. What I meant to say is dragon design.
I'm good with skull, but dragon will be a lot more fun, I think.
Okay, let's do dragon.
All right, all right. Okay, well, so I had, I like gory stuff. I like scary stuff. I like intense, over the top, dark fantasies type stuff. But I kind of, I've been kind of immersed in that stuff for the past 3 months doing
Hi,
horror
Jackie.
props for theme shows. And I think I want to do something cute and fun. So we're going to do a cute dragon. So, and typically, if you've watched me before, I don't typically start with a sketch or registration line, but in this particular case, I think I'm gonna, only because it's a back piece, it's not a face paint, and it's one of those things where, I don't know, I might want to do something with the background to make it pop just a little bit more. So, anyway, I'm just gonna do a quick sketch. It's gonna be kind of a chibi looking little guy. Um, just gonna kind of make this up.
Tanya says, hello from Ohio, Dutch. I'm a huge fan. Thank you for your time. Thank you, Blake. You're welcome.
Yeah, well, I really enjoy doing this for you guys. I really do. Teaching is what my heart wants, but what my wife and my kids want is food and a roof over their heads. So sometimes I got to do other stuff.
Yeah. Otherwise, it turns out they pass out, and that's not
Yeah.
good. That's not good for family dynamics.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing being an artist, because there's so many things that I can apply my craft to make a living at.
Can you move the camera just a tad to the right, please? There you go. Thank you.
You're welcome. So the reason I'm starting with white is because it's not going to, adversely affect any other color I lay down, or at least not too much. So that's why I'm kind of starting with white. I know some other artists like to use uh, pre-existing things like eyebrow pencils and things like that.
Yeah, Mateo uses sort of a brown pencil.
Yeah. And I get it. I really do. I'm an illustrator at heart. That's what I used to do. That was my first job in the art world, was just straight illustration. So it's a control thing that feels very natural. So I get using the pencil. But I find that I can just fly a lot faster with the paintbrush. So
yeah,
and it's loose. It's a loose thing, and sometimes things happen that you didn't really expect to happen, and sometimes that can be fun when you're doing something like this. I think maybe if you're at the Worlds, and you're competing or something like that, yeah, you might want to have your beat down and maybe be a little bit more practiced. Maybe you've gone through the body paint a few times to make sure you execute and that you've got a control of your time and things like that. But we're not going to run out of time today. I know I do have a tendency to go a little over sometimes because I get a little carried away, and I also get a little chatty too. So sometimes I've gotten pretty good though at continuing to paint despite the chattiness. So
no, you do a great job, no question. And actually, you don't run too long. I think Mateo runs longer.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mostly
he-
because he has prosthetics and stuff. It gets crazy.
yeah, he's a blender too. He really likes his blending. I blend too, but I blend via gimmicks and techniques. I told my wife the other day, when I'm at the shop and I'm working on things, I only speak one language, and that's Vietnamese. And so if I can do something faster and quicker and still come up with the same visual result, then that's what I'm going to do.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And that's sort of you know, that's why, you know, my black attack classes and my blobology classes, that's the crux of every single one of those was, you know, hey, you can sit there and sketch and toil and paint like you're painting a watercolor or you know, oil paint or something like that. But you're going to be at it forever, and your kid's going to get frustrated. They're going to start to squirm on you.
They're going to pass out.
Yeah, or pass out. You're going to have to tell them the pass out story because we brought it up.
Yeah. Well, it's I think you tell it better because I wasn't there. Actually, your daughter tells it better because she thought it was funny.
Yeah. Well, we were doing another class for another gal, much the same operation that you're running here.
Mm-hmm.
And but we were decided to do an airbrush back piece. And so I had her across the room over here up against my whiteboard because it was a nice big blank place to stuff her while I worked on her back. Well, I thought, well, to save on noise, we'll run the CO2 tank instead of the air compressor for the airbrush. And so I started painting her, and she started to say, I don't feel so good. And I was like, oh, you're fine. Because, I mean, my eldest daughter is she's kind of a complainer, kind of a worrywart, kind of a drama queen. And so I was like, yeah, just hang in there. We're almost done. And next thing you know, she's gone. She's fallen over backwards off the chair, and my wife's sprinting over to catch her. And my wife's like, cut, shut off the camera, shut. And I'm like, why? She just passed out.
Keep filming. It's great art.
Like, because the way, I guess, where my head was this is a great lesson. This is what you do when your model passes out. Because it happens. I mean, it does. It really, it's one of those things that you know, you don't want it to happen, but it does from time to time. So
wow, it's blurry at this point. I can't tell you what's going on, but it is.
Uh-oh.
Right. There we go. That's better. Daria says this looks great already.
Oh.
Oh, wow. That's some color.
Yeah, that's a little bit of well, that's unfortunately not a color you're going to be able to buy anymore. It was a color that Wolf put out as a when they were developing their monster palette years ago. And they had to do a whole run to get the shipment to come over from overseas, and so they kind of doled these out to people like myself and the Wolf brothers and whatnot to use to try out, see if we liked it. And we were like, oh, we love it, there's just such deep gem tones, and then they wound up changing the whole thing and going a completely other direction, which I'm not sure why they did that. Makes no sense to me because I found these colors to be just
great colors. Blurring.
Mom, turn off the blur. I don't know how to turn off the blur. Can you guys can you just type real fast to see if I can? Yep. It's perfect because he's got to go look for a brush that
I grabbed. It was the first brush I grabbed.
Sorry about
Michelle says, thank you for demoing this. I'm excited to follow along. And Liz says, I love these colors.
Yeah, they're amazing.
And Cheryl says, if I were his model, I'd fall asleep. This looks relaxing.
Zeta says it tickles.
All
okay,
right.
so sorry, I just don't know how to get it out of that.
Okay, it's zoomed in enough now. It's good.
So
keep an eye on it.
what I'm doing to achieve this color is
Hello,
I'm mixing
Japan.
a very deep gem tone
Mhm.
with my fluorescent pink.
Mhm.
So what the fluorescent pink is doing is it's bringing that bright value up while it's still a darker color. So that's how I'm achieving that. And like I said, I'm just blocking this out right now.
Mhm.
I might make some changes to the shapes as I start to detail this. But I just want to get the colors in play.
Okay. Hi, Jackie. Hey, Patty. Diaz says, I always struggle with dragons.
Dragons are my absolute favorite. There's so much latitude with dragons. You don't have to do anything the same way twice. I actually taught dragon classes quite a bit when I was touring and doing the regular teaching circuits at the conventions. But so many other people started teaching them. I eventually got away from them. I did have some dragons in our magazine that we put out some time ago. And it does my heart proud to know that there's people out there that are still using those designs and then have just taken them and modified them and added their own twist to them. It used to kind of upset me when people stole my stuff. But once I started teaching, it's just you got to expect if you're going to put it out there, it's going to get used. People are going to do stuff with it. So
sure.
My attitude changed. Brian Wolf was instrumental in that. He taught me the attitude of gratitude and all that jazz, where we were kind of doing the Bruce Lee thing and trying to hold on to all of our secrets. And that's just a kind of a negative mindset, honestly. I mean, it's at its core, it's negative. It might be positive for your own income and things like that. You don't want to give away all your secrets, because you want to be able to do something that the other guys aren't doing. And I get that. But, there's only one me. I paint the way that I paint. People can emulate it and copy it and take inspiration from it, and that's fine.
Hello, Nassau County, Long Island, New York.
No.
Patty says, I love dragons so much and more now when my son tells me that I am a dragon in Chinese ears or something like that.
Oh, yeah. I'm a rat.
That must make your mom proud.
Well,
I came first in the year of the rat.
Yeah, when you read up on it, it's pretty cool to be a rat. But
yeah, I don't know.
It's
I'd
just
rather
like
be
why a rat? Why did they, of all the things they could have chosen to be benevolent and wise and yada yada? Why did they choose the rat?
I think I'm year of the chipmunk.
Yeah.
There's a chipmunk one.
I'm making that up, but it sounds good.
I guess I've never heard of that one. But that'd be great.
They celebrate small little critters that have big fluffy cheeks.
Love it.
So he's going to have a little bit of a smile.
Liz says, I'm so grateful for these classes. They've made a huge difference for me in my first year of painting for money. Welcome. Thanks, Liz. Thanks, Liz.
Yeah. Well, that's why we do it, right? I mean, I do it for the fun of painting too, but yeah, we ultimately do it so we can make a living.
Absolutely. And speaking of that, I've got a class just for you.
Yeah.
So we're having a master class with Kelly Burris. She's a great artist, and she's going to be doing some basic design stuff. And this is going to be much more personal attention, and it's just Zoom, and it's not going to be, and you can turn on your audio and you could talk to her and stuff like that. So if you guys are interested in that, here is the link.
It's so cute.
It is a cute dragon.
Is my head in the way?
Nope.
No, not at all.
Ball cap is slightly in the frame, but not.
Okay, I just want to make sure.
You're doing good.
All right, so now I'm going to do a little bit of blending here just because some of those brush strokes are a little intense. So basically what I've done is I've just kind of blotted my brush out. Kind of not rinsed the paint out of it so much as just kind of wiped it off onto my towel, taking some of that saturation away. The brush that I'm using is basically just a big old filbert brush anyway, so there's enough moisture left in the bristles that I can kind of reactivate what's already there, and just kind of push it around until I get you know, a little bit of more of a subtle gradient. Like right here, for instance, I mean, that's just way too hard of a line. If it was an intentional shadow line that I wanted to put there, that'd be one thing, but it's just a brush stroke that I need to calm down a little bit.
The class, Karen, is on September 12th, which I believe is a Thursday, and it's from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. Eastern time, if that helps.
Okay. Well, I think
Awesome.
before I get too carried away with the focal point, I better throw in a background. So we're going to use a really fun color. I'm going to start with a light blue.
I mean, this is a great color. I mean, a couple of people have. Oh, great! That's fantastic, Karen. I look forward to seeing you. And I mean, it's just a low down crying shame they don't have that color anymore.
Yeah, it really was. The whole set. I think we still have a few stuffed away in storage somewhere. The whole set was all incredibly deep and rich gem tones. They were beautiful. There was an emerald green, and there was just this really deep purple that was, oh man, the purple was great. And the reason that they came up with these colors was they were trying to emulate like a bruise wheel. And they had a darker version of a yellow ochre that they already had in their kit, and they just kind of darkened it, add a little bit more of a brown saturation to it. And man, they were just, every color in there was just really fun to play with. Once you got them wet and saturated, they just went for days too. And so the thing that I kind of remarked on the most when I was giving them feedback was, man, these colors just seem to go and go and go. What did you do? And so I found out later on, you know, being a painter, I like to learn constantly. You know, I'm a voracious scarfer of information, and I got to know everything. And so I kind of found out what they were using for those colors, and it made sense. And that also made sense why they didn't produce some of those colors, because they ultimately would have been really difficult to get off.
Yeah, just to let everybody know that came in later. This is Wolf Brothers, Wolf Paint, no longer Wolf Brothers. But sadly, these colors don't exist anymore. So this was a palette that was kind of a monster palette a while ago that they were dishing out, but then they decided to change it. So sadly, you can't get this. This just doesn't exist.
No.
And so what kind of paint would you recommend to, or whatever that color is? Well, it's pinkish. What kind of face paint would you recommend that's close to that?
Australian body art is going to be the closest to the original Wolf paint that you're ever going to find. They've got a very broad range of colors, where a lot of brands started kind of scaling back their diversity in colors. They went the other direction. They just added more. I find a lot of them aren't really usable. The workability, not the brand, but some of the colors. Like, right. I don't care for. I'm not going to go purchase a pink coral because I can just make it. You know, I can just add a little bit of white to my red and a little dash of orange, and I can make that coral color. And I don't need a whole 90 gram in my kit because I'm just not going to use that much of it at any point. And so that's just a personal preference, but they do have a very, very broad array of colors. and
Mhm.
it's that dense wax based paint, the very high opacity that I prefer to work with.
Mhm.
This color is closest to sort of a berry wine color, the
Right.
darker version of it.
Right.
And another brand that has a great version of that color is Superstar.
Mhm.
If you're familiar with that brand,
Sure.
I've got it in my kit as well. It
Mhm.
reads more of a maroon than a burgundy, but it's really really nice. This is a dilution too. This isn't even full opacity. So
Right.
to give you a sense of how dark those things would be if I just used
A couple of comments. Patty said, I do watercolors, and what Dutch is doing is what we do. Water, a drawing pigment. It's around to make shadows and light. I love it so much.
yeah.
And Heidi says, I agree with Liz. I'm so thankful to facepaint.com for doing these free classes. You're very welcome. When I found out facepaint.com will be my only store to buy from. Well, thank you very much, Heidi. I appreciate that. Emma says, it was asking about the brand, with other pinks, and she's been using Fusion and another. And you answered that question. And your issue says, yes, your classes are awesome. Emma from Marysville, California.
California. We have a Marysville here in Washington. I'm sure there's probably a Marysville in every state.
Yeah.
Probably a lot of Marysvilles. I mean, I actually kind of want to know how many Marysvilles there are in the United States. I got to know.
Yeah.
Once you
Well,
discover
we're
complexity, you can never go back. Hello, Illinois.
all right. So I think that's enough of the background for now. I well, no, I take that back. You know what? I'm going to do a little bit more, just a little bit. I need some more blue.
Okay.
What?
I like it when your daughter breathes, because then the dragon sort of moves, sort of flaps his wings. It's kind of
I like it when this daughter breathes, because then she doesn't black out on me halfway through the class.
well, there's that. Hello, Netherlands. Barbara says hi, Dutch.
Hi, Barbara.
Marysville, Washington, Marysville, Kansas, Marysville, California. There are only other states that have a place called Marysville include Florida, Indiana, Iowa, Michigan, Montana, Ohio, Pennsylvania, and Texas. There are 16 Marysvilles in America, in the United States.
And we have one of them.
And who says you don't learn anything watching face painting? That's these are the kind of facts you can carry with you for the rest of your life. I don't know how that would come up in a real situation, but let's just say it could come up. I mean, you could baffle them with that. Yeah, there's 16 Marysvilles in the United States. I knew that.
All right. So I'm going to throw a little bit of. I kind of wanted this
Barbara's in
stomach area and the eyes to have a little bit more, I don't know, of a glow. So like he's, I don't know, like there's energy coming from the inside. I don't know. I mean, let's not call it fire. Let's just call it, dragon energy. I don't know. So I'm gonna play with my colors a little bit here.
Dragon aura.
Unfortunately, I've got so much stuff in my kit.
Marysville, Indiana. There we go. That's one of the states I mentioned. Patty makes a good point. This could be a great belly painting.
Oh yeah, yeah. When I was in, I want to say it was Australia. Pretty sure it was Australia. I did a cutesy little dragon coming out of an egg on a belly paint once, and it turned out really nice.
Yeah, that would be good. So for those of you who thought you were going to see skulls today, we went pink dragon instead. So it's just like a skull, except for it's a pink dragon.
How did we come up with skulls?
No, I wrote it down 9 months ago when we were talking.
Yeah, I think it was like we needed something like that I could do fast. I think was what we were trying to figure out. I don't know.
Right.
Oh, you had that big screen skull on that one roll that you did.
Yeah.
Emma says Marysville, California was established during the Donner Party during the gold rush. Wow. The Donner Party, they did not have a good time, as I remember. That was even worse than being painted by your father, just so your daughter knows that theirs worse.
I'm going to do a little bit of highlighting here. So what I'm doing is going with a little thicker version of this white on a sponge with some of the lightest fluorescent pink, just to give myself a lighter value.
Actually, a lot of people were excited about the skulls, but they're happy to see this as well. So both Michelle and Liz. Milo asked, do your daughters like getting their faces and bodies painted when they're not being models? My girls are teens now and need to be bribed for me to them to model for me.
This one likes it, you know, because I mean, all she would be doing at this point in the evening is precisely what she's doing right now, which is just doom scrolling. So she can doom scroll and get a cool back paint at the same time.
We'll walk around town after this.
Well, there you go.
There you go.
Okay, so I'm going to throw a little bit of detail in the scales now. So I'm going to go kind of a harder opacity with that maroon. And I'm going to kind of start in the middle of the forehead here.
Okay.
Oh, a skull tattoo on the dragon.
Yeah.
Do your kids paint?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, they got the creative spark, that's for sure. You know,
they're finally doing gigs by themselves.
They're doing their own gigs now. Actually, they're doing stuff completely without me at this point. So that's exciting.
That is exciting.
I just thought, you know, as a teenager, you know, they could flip burgers, or they could try to intern at some office or do some god awful horrible job, or they could
crushing is the word you're looking for.
Yeah, or they could, you know, literally make thousands of dollars a weekend making children happy. So I've been really kind of trying to explain that to them, you know, that you got options here and you're already trained up. So I just you can lead a horse to water, right?
Well, it seems they're drinking.
Yeah.
Can you turn your daughter a little bit, because it's hard to see that line? Perfect. That's perfect. Yeah. It was just the lighting. It was a little off. Okay.
Still center?
It's perfect.
Okay.
Changed nothing. Looks great.
Okay. I love the colors. Oh my gosh, it pops.
Yeah, the colors are great. Just let you know, we got about 30 minutes.
More than enough time.
Yep. It's detail time.
Yep, we'll have some fun with the details. I was looking at some anime art, and I've kind of liked the way that some of the artists now are doing this sort of thing where instead of having really clearly defined pupils, which I love, I love getting as much detail in the eye as I humanly can, because eyes are just kind of one of those really fun things to have fun with and paint and, you know, kind of explore the colors and have some fun with. But I've started to see these eyes that have done kind of more of just like a glassy, almost like there's nothing in there, like it's just a marble. And for the dragons, that just to me seems super cool. So I was going to kind of mess around with that for this guy, because it kind of reads cute to me anyway.
It does. Emma says, my teens do paint for fundraisers and they do great work. I wish they continue too. Kids love to see young, beautiful teens working on them. Better than a grandma. Me, LOL. But I'm a pretty grandma. Okay. Well, that's good.
Yeah, I was at an event with a pretty well-known, they had a pretty well-known face paint operation, kind of a franchise operation that was running a booth. It was over in Denver. I was over there working here a little while back. And they're Merrymakers is the name. And I do know some of the people who were working there, and so I kind of walked up and I kind of stood in the wait, in the off to the side. I didn't want to interrupt them or anything, but I just wanted to say hi and show a solidarity, if you will. And they were so busy they couldn't even look up, so I didn't want to bug them.
Well, that was nice of you not to bug them.
Yeah.
Latasha says, hello from Chicago. I'm late. Can't wait to go back for the replay. The dragon is so freaking awesome.
Oh, I'm glad you like it.
That was in all caps.
All right, so I think I'm gonna go a little more subdued in here. Do some. I want to take. If you throw too many hard lines through your lighter colors, then it has a tendency to bring the value of the whole thing down. So instead of going with that color that I was lining everything else with, I've lightened that just a little bit. And I'm going to take what's left in my brush and I'm going to kind of drag it up here into some of this that I've already got. Oop,
is that how you create a 3D look, or Emma was commenting on that?
Yeah, so I'm trying to create this glassy eye look, and really the way to pull that off is to not have anything really hard and established in there. Everything needs to sort of blend into the next thing. And I definitely want the light to stand out away from the rest of the color of the body of the dragon. So I'm trying to kind of blend these things in now. Let me use a little bit more of this to separate this up a little bit. It's tricky because if you go too watery, you're gonna be removing paint, right? So with this particular type of paint, this wax based paint, it reactivates really nicely, but you got to be careful where you land with it because it'll lose that. And so then when I get to the highlights on this thing, because the colors are so rich, that's when I'll grab one of these towels, and I'll go through that here in a second. But the towels are instrumental in making sure that I get my highlights to stay highlights and not just to sink into the darker colors. I had thought that it would be kind of cool to do like multiple exposures on this guy, but being as we're kind of already over halfway through our time, I don't think I'm going to be able to pull that off too much. So, but just for giggles, I'll do a little bit.
Okay.
I'll do a little bit here.
Diana says, I love these. I love dragons. This little guy is great. Hello from Bellevue, Nebraska. And Fawn says, do you practice drawing on paper? And if so, how long do you practice before you get happy? You're happy to paint on bodies?
Well, that's a really good question. Well, I guess the best way to answer that is just to give you a brief history of how I got into this. I was an illustrator before I became a body painter. So if you're going to ask me, is it important to draw first? Absolutely. Absolutely, it's important. Most of my peers in the art realm, if you will tell you straight up that you got to draw every single day. You should set aside some time just to doodle while you're, watching, Game of Thrones or whatever you do at night. Just have that sketch pad in your hand and just be working on it, because it's tremendously important. It's a skill set that has to be practiced constantly. It's like shooting pool. If for any of you people that have ever thrown darts or played pool or anything like that, it's not something that you just get good at and that you can just pick up and run with. It's something that you really have to work at and develop as a skill set through practice. And if you don't, you're always going to be mediocre. So absolutely, I drawing is very good. And what's even better now is there's so much reference out there. There's so many different styles. I mean, a lot of artists are really hard on the AI trends right now, but man, I'm having a lot of fun finding inspiration in some of this art.
Mm-hmm.
I use it as a photo scrap to give myself ideas for things to draw all the time. So it's just I'm kind of one of those people that'll just save a little picture. I'll be doom scrolling myself, and I'll see something cool. I'm like, ooh, I'm gonna save that. That looks really sharp. And it's not that I'm gonna copy that picture, because I never copy anything exactly. It's just kind of a personal thing for me. But what I do is there's something about that blend. There's something about the way that glows. There's something about, how that chrome kind of has that rust patina on it or something that I'll use later on. So that's what I do. It's I kind of develop a little photo scrap album in my phone of stuff that I like, and I'll sit down either with my iPad or with a pen and pencil, and I'll just doodle. And I haven't been as good or diligent at it of late, and that's just because work has taken priority. Yeah.
Yeah, Patty was asking the question, do you do gigs anymore? And the answer is, you don't really do gigs anymore.
No, I have my kids doing the gigs for me now. Like I said, they're very good at it, and they need to make some money too. I'm predominantly doing prop making for major theme parks. So I make the big statues and the big fun things that you see, at Universal Studios and Disneyland and Six Flags and those places.
Hello, Georgia. Okay. Hello, Canada. Another Esther says, brought my first professional feints from Dutch and his wife at his house about 15 years ago. Stopped by their house thinking it was a storefront. And she had no idea who he was.
Oh, really? That's hilarious.
Yeah. High splash.
Our house to buy some paints. So
I had that happen to me once. That's my apartment, and there was this nice lady, and she was wandering around my apartment and in New York, and she said, "Where are the clown supplies?" And I thought, I don't know how to tell you this, but I keep them here. And it's like, but yes, it was like, okay. And then I realized I needed to not put my personal address on the website.
Yeah. Well, we have a shop now, but we're almost never here.
There you go. Jose says, or Josie says, beautiful dragon. You're right. Drawing every day is the key. Thank you from Yukon, Canada. And hello, Philadelphia. Philadelphia is a great town. I love Philadelphia. You've got great museums. The Barnes collection is one of the most fabulous ones.
So I'm just making these little points of interest that the dragon can be looking at. They're just little glowy spots. And I'm just using this goofy little craft rounds for now. But
it'd be really funny if your daughter had hiccups.
Yeah. It happens. So I'm going to mix a little bit of black in with this burgundy, just a touch, just to bring it down about, 2 more values. And that's how I'm going to get some separation without using just pure black. I like to go into some of these darker areas that are clearly not out in front. And darken them up just a little bit. Inside of this little earful is a good place to start, up under this eye.
This dragon is 6 fires.
Is what?
6 fires.
6
I think hot is what they're trying to say.
Ah. So it just kind of pulls the background into the background a little bit more and keeps the foreground a little bit brighter.
Mm-hmm. Hey, if you've got any questions on Zoom, just put it in the Q&A section.
And let's see, let's address this area down here a little bit because there's not
Your
much.
hat's kind of in the way.
Yeah, I'm sorry. My daughter's turned away from me, so I'm kind of painting around the corner right now.
Yeah, I understand.
Because
But
if she were squared up to me, then I would.
but on the other hand, she looks great on camera. How do you make these scales? Just drew them. I think that's pretty much.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you've ever played with henna before, it's kind of like that. You just kind of start in the middle. And so I mentioned earlier that the forehead's a great place to start.
Mm-hmm.
And you just kind of draw a radial pattern from there. I just wanted to kind of make it, I wanted that forehead to be kind of bulbous looking. So I definitely wanted things to kind of go around the corner a little bit.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, that's pretty much it. And then the last steps, the last bits I'm going to paint here are just going to be the highlights. And so I'm just about ready to do that. How are we doing for time?
We got 18 minutes.
Oh, we're doing great.
Okay. Karen says, I'm actually happy for the switch of the design. This is so adorable. I love it.
Oh, good.
And Q Faces says, do you paint on canvas often?
I frankly don't have any time for that. I would love to have time for that, but I just don't. My plan, and this is just me talking, for this year was I was working at a shop. It was a 9 to 5 kind of operation, doing the same thing. I was making props, and things weren't going very well there, and I had to step out and just stop working there because things weren't really going my way. It's kind of getting used, kind of getting taken advantage of. Don't want to go into that.
Bad
But
boss. Even I know that.
When you know your value and you're not being valued properly, and you've dropped some subtle hints and they're not being received, you just it's like, okay, well, you had your chance.
Bad boss.
I'm moving on. So anyway, once I threw my name out there into the ether, I started getting picked up by a whole bunch of shops all over the country, and so I've been traveling. I've been away from home. I just got back a few days ago. I've been gone since the beginning of June. I haven't been home since June. And the plan was that I was going to fly and do one of these props, and then I was going to come home for a week, and then I would fly out for another week, and then I'd come home for a week. And that was going to be my mode. But these shops had so much work for me that I just never got a chance to come home. In fact, I was just going from one shop to the next shop immediately because they were in such dire need. And that's because all of the major theme parks right now are setting up for Halloween, and they've got some really big demands on some of these prop shops to make cool new stuff, because they don't like recycling the same old stuff every year. They like to have a different showing year over year. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to take a clean wet brush, and I'm going to go into some of these areas, like right there, and boom. Right there, and boom. I'm just going to take that paint off. And the reason for that is I want white in there, and I don't want that white to look like burgundy or fluorescent paint for that matter.
Mm-hmm. Emma says, you're all very right about the drawing. My daughters draw every day, and they are better than me in drawing when I was their age. And little kids always ask, how long have you been painting? And I respond, keep drawing now, and you'll be an awesome artist as you get bigger and maybe famous. Great dragon, love it.
Yeah. No, it's a muscle. It's got to be practiced. You got to train it.
Yep, absolutely. Hello, Juarez. Chihuahua. And Zafira Khan says, love this design. Seems like the dragon flaps its wings every time the canvas breathes. It's alive. Yeah, that's absolutely true. The canvas thinks that's funny. Where do you get your inspiration from? Asked Sally.
Well, I don't need inspiration for dragons. I just love drawing them. I've done zombie dragons. I've done dragons that look like the Balrog from Lord of the Rings. I've done slimy, slithery, snake-like dragons. There's so much latitude with the dragon, and so in my head, when I'm thinking about a dragon, I'm like, where does this dragon live? What does it do wherever it lives? Is it a big stomping around Godzilla-like dragon, or is it a sleek, lightweight flying like dragon? And so forth and so on. I think of its environment, and then I think of cool things that might suggest that environment. So like if I'm doing an ice dragon, naturally I'm going to use an icy palette. I'll choose some ice colors, light blues, and maybe some lavenders or some yellows to suggest, translucence and ice and so forth. And then I might do something as cliche as make the horns look like icicles and the claws look like icicles and things like that. And just kind of work with textures that I already know how to create, and I'm just adding them to a living thing. Like with a lava dragon, it's a lot of cracked rock and obsidian, shiny black rock, and so forth and so on. So I just bend and tweak, and then there's like, well, do I want a long snout or do I want a short snout, or do I want really big dewy eyes like this guy, or do I want little beady sinister eyes? It just kind of depends on the feel of what I'm going for and what I'm trying to sell with the picture. I'm clearly going for cute with this one, so I'm keeping everything light, and I'm trying to make it even lighter now. What I've been doing, for any of you that maybe missed it, is I'm just removing paint so that when I go in and I do these highlights in white, that they remain white. So I'm going to start with some light glints.
Any tips for a beginner on doing backs?
Not really any tips other than just make sure that you're set up, that your model's comfortable. The comfort of the model is very important. The back does tend to be one of the least ticklish areas of the body because you just have a lot fewer nerves back there than you do on the front of your body. But sometimes people are very ticklish. So you got to consider that with your brush strokes. I don't know if any of you have seen any of my past classes with Blake, but we taught how to line the eye in a non-ticklish way so that they don't flinch and pull away while you're trying to line the eye on the face paint. It's much the same way. You just find an approach that's the least intrusive, I guess. And you just try to make sure that the model's happy, because you want the model to hold still. When the model starts to twitch and fidget, then that affects the quality of your work, and you don't want that. So
Sally says you're an amazing artist. It seems like you're painting on canvas.
Well, kind of am. That was what drew me to body art initially. When my wife first volunteered me to paint faces out of the pumpkin patch, I had never worked with the medium before, and so it was very surprising to me how like acrylics this particular type of paint was. And so that it just kind of worked really, really well for me. I didn't struggle with it too much. The big struggle, I think, is when you're using a lot of different brands together. Like, not to pick on any brands or anything, but like if you're using like a Meron or a Superstar with, I don't know, what are some of the other wax base?
Let's see.
Like
Other wax base are Craze,
Diamond
Fusion, Diamond FX.
Yeah.
Who else? There's a bunch of them. Crivaline.
Yeah, and
there's
like
other
Cryolan is even more different than
yeah, Kryolan's
Pyrex.
they're sort of basically two classes. There's the stuff that's either made private labeled for different brands, Fusion, Craze, Face Paint Australia. I can tell you where they're made. And then there's the big makeup companies like Ben Nye, Maron, Superstar makes its own, and who am I? Krylon. Did I say Krylon already? Yeah, Krylon. So those guys are just it's very much off their makeup line, their stage makeup line.
Right. And so a lot of people they'll be at a convention or a trade show, and they'll see these amazing colors from all these other lines, and they'll realize that they don't play well with other brands. They don't mix, they don't blend in, and they'll give you some weird results sometimes. And so I don't want to sit here and say stick with one brand, because I don't. I've got multiples in my kit. However, I do make sure that they play nice together. I make sure that I'm using brands that are of a like consistency, so that I don't run into problems when I'm in the middle of a project and go, oh, and now that one's flaking off and this one won't lay on anymore, and yada yada yada. So I'm going a little heavy with the highlights here, but I kind of
Zafiricon says that's true. I love painting and drawing since I was in elementary, high school. That's 7-year-olds. My minor was illustration. I just turned 40, and that's what I say to kids: just keep practicing.
Yeah, and don't be afraid to cheat a little bit. And what I mean by cheat is, go to Michael's or those stores and pick up a how-to draw book. You know what? Because some of that systematic approach to painting translates very, very well to face paint. I preach it quite frequently, actually. And another thing, if you want a professional artist tip from a professional artist that's been doing it for a while, learn anatomy. Take some time, buy a book, learn anatomy. When you learn anatomy and then you incorporate, what you've learned into your drawing, and you start to try to figure out some of those hard things, well, what goes where, which bone connects to that bone, what is that supposed to look like? Then your work improves tremendously. It just by leaps and bounds when you actually understand the anatomy of things, because the anatomy of humans it's a great place to start, but then you start to realize, wow, you know what? The anatomy of other animals starts to make a whole lot more sense too. Horses and cats and dogs and so forth. Mm-hmm. So definitely, if you want to up your game and you want to kind of run with the big dogs and really take your art seriously, every artist worth his medal is learning anatomy, and that would be the best advice I'd give you. Because all these little face paint tips and tricks will only get you so far, when you're trying to create.
We had Wolf do it, and he did anatomy of a skull, which was both gruesome and interesting.
Oh yeah. Which Wolf? Reichert or Wolf? Nick Wolf?
Nick Wolf.
Yeah, I miss Nick. We used to get to hang out a whole lot more, but lately we're just kind of off doing different things.
He was living in England. I think he's back though. I saw him at the last convention I was at in DC, I think. No, St. Louis.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
How's our time?
We got 5 minutes.
Okay.
That still work?
Will that still work in what way?
And in the sense that I don't want to rush you if you need more time.
Oh no, I mean, I'm just kind of poking at him right now. He can be done. I mean, he looks pretty good. I
He
mean,
looks
there's
great.
there's
Not pretty
there's
good.
degrees of completion. That's
Right.
another thing that it's another ism or a truism, if you will, about body art is when you do body painting, you have to understand you're never going to be able to do it exactly how you want to do it. You'll never have time. You can't just hunt and poke and tweak and fix constantly with body paint. It has to be done at some point, and that was hard cheese to swallow initially, and I got very discouraged on several occasions actually, because I just couldn't. I just didn't feel like I had enough time to really do a good job. One time in particular, I think it was around 2019. I was at Transworld, and I was painting this Iniri sort of demon motif, and man, I was having such fun with it, and it was looking so cool. When you're working on something, and you're not even half done, and you like it already as an artist, you're doing a good job. Because artists are typically pretty hard on themselves. Um, and I was just having a blast with this thing. And it was turning out so good. And then I looked at the clock and realized I had 15 minutes left, and I was barely halfway done. And I was devastated because I really wanted to finish this thing. But the floor was closing. There was nothing I could do about it. I just had to be done. I had to call it done where it was. And everybody dug it. No, I mean, the casual observer walking by didn't know that I didn't intend for it to look that way from the start. But in my heart, I was like, oh man, I wanted to detail that so much more, and I wanted to fix that. Oh, I wanted to fix that, and
Mm-hmm. Misty has probably the funniest comment I've seen tonight. Misty says, I just showed my daughter and she said, and I'm quoting here, "Holy crap, is that with face paint?"
Yes, it is.
That's Misty, that's a great line. I think we could have to put that on t-shirts. Holy crap, is that face paint? And then Liz Caldwell says, it's seriously super cool.
So I always use elements of my blobology. You can see I'm just using little dash marks with the paintbrush just to pull out a little more detail and character here and there. Because obviously I don't got time to paint scales over the whole thing. I don't got time to do this little, fish scale pattern over the whole thing. I'd be at it all night. And then you run the risk of making your piece just busy and kind of hard to look at. And I mean, I think he's kind of almost bordering on that right now. I mean, that was my biggest criticism when I was a young budding comic book illustrator. I tell this story when I teach from time to time. I turned my portfolio into one of my heroes, artist by the name of Arthur Adams. And he was looking at people's portfolios at Comic-Con. And I put together what I thought was my best work and put it in a nice little binder and everything. And he just flipped through it kind of flippantly, if you will, and didn't have much to say. And then when he had kind of gotten to the end of the book, I was just reading his facial expressions, and he just seemed kind of like, yeah, you're kind of noodling it here, and you kind of, I don't know, you gotta work on this a little bit more, and he's just being very real and very plain with me. It was a real critique, and I had a lump in my throat. I was about ready to cry. I'm not gonna lie. I just felt crushed. I just felt like, because I mean, you got to put the whole thing in perspective. I'd only ever heard from when I was age 4 up until I was, age 19 or 18 or whenever it was I turned in this portfolio, how great I was, from family members and people at school and so forth and so on. Oh, you're just an amazing artist. Oh, you're going places. Yada, yada, yada. Well, then I put together what I thought was some of my best work, and the guy just shot it down. And at least that was my impression of what he had done. What he had actually done is he had given me a very thorough professional critique. And so after that criticism, I took that portfolio and I threw it in a closet, and I literally forgot about it for about 15 years. And I was doing some cleaning and going through some stuff, and I happened upon it, and I opened it up, and it was like playing a recorder in my head. Literally every page that I turned when I was looking through these old drawings, I heard his words, and he was absolutely 100% right on every single thing. And I was laughing in spite of myself. I was guffawing out loud because I couldn't hold it in, because, you know, I just wasn't mature enough to take a real artistic critique at that age. And so, you know, had I just listened, had I not been so proud, and I'd listened to some of those criticisms and applied them, it might have changed my art career. So
you obviously did pretty well, because Latashu says, I'm standing up in my living room giving an actual applause. Very nicely done. I feel there should be fireworks or sound effects or something. Amazing.
turn this way.
Kim says the dimension is amazing. Becky says, oh no, I just got here, but you could always watch it on replay. And Anna says, spectacular.
Well, I'm glad.
Just an amazing design. I think we're all in awe. So thank you as always, Dutch. Dutch will be actually back twice. So he's going to be back in March, but he's also going to be teaching a master class on September 26th. And we'll keep you updated with the exact times and stuff like that. Thank you very much. Thank you to your canvas. I hope you had a fun and productive time, everybody. Have a great evening. Have a good weekend. Bye-bye.
Bye.